The Bible Study Podcast, episode 415. Today, the Bible Study Podcast continues the study of the Gospel of Matthew and the Sermon on the Mount. Welcome to the Bible Study Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Christensen. We dealt with the Beatitudes last week in Matthew 5, and we're going to go on with as much of the Sermon on the Mount as we can get to today. And we start this way, with salt and light. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Salt of the earth is certainly an expression we've heard, although it's probably a little more obscure than it used to be. I'm not sure if you realize how valuable salt used to be. Salt was the only thing that let your meat last longer, and therefore it was quite valuable. And that's why somebody who is valuable is worth their salt. That is why you get a salary, in fact, which is still coming from salt. And why when we go to work, we often are going back to the salt mines. And so when he's talking about salt, he's not talking about something like we think of as being just something cheap you buy at the supermarket, but something quite valuable. But what good is that salt when it loses its value? Salt is supposed to be salty. Light is supposed to shine. And he's saying here, if you are God's followers, if you are God's disciples, you're supposed to shine. You're supposed to be salty. You're supposed to make a difference in the place where God puts you. And specifically, let people see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. For many people, the only glimpse they may get of God is what they see of God through you and I, which is scary. I think I would rather say that I was in a town built in a valley, just a little shy, rather than a town built on a hill where all could see, rather than a lamp put on a lampstand. Because I don't always live up to the faith that I believe in. But God believes in me, and God believes in you, and wants us, therefore, to live as He desires, to be that salt, to be that light. The fulfillment of the law. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the smallest stroke of a pen, will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. Therefore, anyone who sets aside one of the least of these commands and teaches others accordingly will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you that unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. It's an interesting verse, especially when it's said by someone like me who does not practice the Jewish laws. Right? I get up on Saturday morning and I turn on my lights, and I'm told by my Jewish friends that perhaps is working on the Sabbath. And more so, I work on the Sabbath. Although I try and take a day of rest. I try and understand the spirit of what that law means. I'm someone who doesn't keep kosher. I love a good bacon cheeseburger. How can I believe what Jesus is saying here and yet still not practice the Jewish laws? I heard a conversation recently with some young friends from the church, and as they talk about the Bible and how difficult the Bible is to believe, they pull back to some obscure law in Leviticus, and they take issue with that law and how we interpret that and the fact that we don't follow it. But we don't. one of the things that happened, and I'm reading in my personal study through Acts, is 10 years after Jesus' resurrection, Peter sent a vision, and he sent to Cornelius, who is a Gentile, and they discover when he comes there and he preaches and God sends his Holy Spirit, that God intends for this faith, this Christian faith, which isn't even called Christian yet at the time, to be for all people. A light to lighten the Gentiles is what the prophet Isaiah said. And they understand that you don't have to be Jewish to be Christian. So how does this apply to me if they decided way back there that I don't have to follow all the Jewish laws? I think one of the things we need to understand is that when we talk about the law, we sometimes miss the point of that the law was given to watch over our relationship between us and God and our relationship between each other. And God's opinion about those two relationships has not changed one bit. God still desires close relationship with us, and there are things that we can do that will damage that relationship. I don't believe, as they didn't believe at the Council of Jerusalem, that me eating a cheeseburger as a Gentile does damage that. And yet, even though I was told that as a Gentile I didn't have to follow all the Jewish law, I understand that the heart of the law that's in the Ten Commandments, that's in so much of that, is still the things that God cares about. He still cares how I treat you. He still cares if I covet your stuff. In fact, Jesus made some of those harder. Right? Not only can I not commit adultery, but if I look at a woman with lust, that's really what I'm doing. If I hate my brother, I'm really on that path to murder because it still breaks that relationship. I think what Jesus is saying here is that God hasn't changed and that he still cares about the things that he cares about, and that's people, and that's relationship. And so he goes on here to say, you have heard it said to people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother, Raka, is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering a gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. And so this section here is in the context of that not one iota of the law, not one stroke of the pen of the law, that God still cares about murder. But moreover, murder is a type of the thing that he cares about. He cares about all those things that break our relationship between me and my brother, between me and my neighbor. That hatred, that thing that is getting in between me, that he says, don't even bother with going through the motions of worship if you're holding something against your brother. That's how much he cares about it. He cares about our worship, but he cares more about our relationships. Adultery. You have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go to hell. This has always been a difficult passage, and I've had people struggle with it who especially are new believers. And I think that Jesus is making a point. I think he is exaggerating to make a point in some ways, because if someone is stealing, I do not believe that their right hand is causing them to stumble. I don't think your right hand is causing you to steal. Oh my gosh, I can't help it. I'm stealing because my right hand is stealing. No. But if it were, he's saying, even your right hand is not more valuable than your relationship with God. Even your right hand is not more valuable than where you are going next. Even your right eye is not more valuable than that. So anything that gets in your way, that bad friendship that you have that is drawing you in the wrong direction, that object, that thing, that physical thing that you have that you value more than God, whether it be a car or a house, that job that you have that's drawing you in the wrong direction, if you would give up your right hand, if you would give up your right eye, how much more is that other thing that's getting in the way less important than where we are going after this life, less important than will we spend eternity with God, because our relationship with God is number one in importance in our lives. With that, we're going to end this episode of the Bible Study Podcast. I pray that this week you and I will find a way to make that relationship more important and more central in our faith. If you have questions, send an email to host@thebiblestudypodcast.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at thebiblestudypodcast.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Pinterest as Chris2X. Thanks so much for listening.
Life Audio presents Bridges with Monica Schmelter.
That we have an enduring hope that can't be taken away when we are in Christ. And to know that we have that, right? And eternal salvation, because this world can be so busy and so dark that we can forget that. Right? Because sometimes I get caught in the trappings of what's going on in my life this moment. And while I have to recognize that, that's not it.
Continue listening on lifeaudio.com or wherever you find your podcast.